start?
Okay, apparently I have a bigger voice than Judy. Judy has commanded me to get started. So here's the thing, Judy and I have never done this before. So this is our plan. The idea is we're going to start with this piece of Judy's and one of mine, and we're just going to ask you to we'll ask you a couple questions. There are no right or wrong answers, but we just want to get you sort of looking and talking about stuff. Then after we've done that for a few minutes, we thought we'd kind of interview each other and tell the stories of how did we get to be doing the art that we're doing now? Like, what's the path by which we got here? And you guys will just wade into that conversation. And then we'll switch to talking about the art itself and how do we do it and what are we up to and why. And again, you guys will wade into that conversation. And then I think it'll just turn into a great big conversation. For those of you who, if you need a bathroom, there's one flight down. Go into the little gallery, you'll find it there. And that's kind of our plan.
Yes.
Do you want to say anything, or should we?
Well, just to start, could you guys guess which one David's, you know what, this is the one that I'm featuring. Which one do you think David is going to feature of all the ones in the room?
It's sort of a trick question.
It is a trick question.
Shall I get it?
Yeah.
Okay, so the reason it's a trick question is most of you can't see it in this one. It's the one down here, which is a pair for this one. And they're both actually kind of significant in my evolution as an artist. But we picked them because... Because, well, I think for obvious reasons, but... All right, Judy. So, Judy's question, this wasn't my question, but Judy's question was, all right, what do you see in these two pieces that are similar or different? What strikes you about them together?
The palette is the same.
Amazing, isn't it?
This one
Yeah.
is blobs.
Yes.
They're
Considering
The blobbiness.
Yes, David and I have not met before we did this project, so it was a surprise to me when I saw those. Yeah.
Shapes that are floating in the field.
Elongated shapes.
Say more about floating.
Looks oceanic,
Uh-huh.
both of them. Or layers, it's layered.
Mhm.
Layered.
And layering is really important in both Judy's and my work, and a sense of depth. Other details that draw your attention. Any thoughts on, like, maybe what we were trying to do, or what we were trying to say, or how we were trying to make you feel?
Light, luminosity.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, color and light.
Sense of flow.
Say again?
Sense of flow.
Say more about that.
Just the sense of movement, like in water, like this one reminds me more of fishes moving
Uh-huh.
different directions.
There's action.
Yeah.
There's action there. This one, when I was doing it, was a carnival going by, so the action of passing past you.
Right.
And that's that's the title is Carnival, so it's supposedly, I do things when I feel a certain way, and this, I felt very much like celebrating something. And so that's how it started.
Yeah, I would have, I think sort of aquarium, like a sea anemone, that kind of
The
movement.
shapes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And does it evoke concepts? What about feelings?
What about feelings, like sort of like seen and unseen?
Say
I think the things that are spotlight and seen versus unseen, what kind of felt in the background.
Uh-huh. Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah, the background's being significant,
Oh,
but you don't really, they're not in your face.
Yeah.
Going along with that, I think in both it looks a little bit as though the shapes are something you're looking through the front at rather than being on the surface.
Uh-huh.
I think there's a,
And do you see it the same way in the two pieces, or do you see it really differently?
I think actually in your piece it's a little bit different depending on which part of the work you're looking at, just because probably of the background.
Uh-huh.
In both cases, at least I have the feeling as though I'm looking through a surface at what's happening.
Anybody else? Yeah?
I think in both of them, there's a sense of like structured play, and I see that iteration or that iterative, like, what happens if I do this, and what happens if I do this, and what happens, and, I mean, I guess that's within the bodies of each artist that we've seen the work that, and this is unique, and at least what we're seeing here, that, you know, most of the other work is very linear and rectangular. And this, I, from my point of view, I don't see anything else that has this amoeba-like.
Yeah.
And it really, this one is really strikingly,
and can you see the step from that one, that one came
Oh,
to
yeah.
this one?
Yeah.
You can see the thinking there.
yeah, absolutely, and that's the iteration.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
There's something back there.
For me, the feelings are very different. This one is very joyful for me, and this one is more calm,
Yeah.
presentness.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Kind of gentle.
I was noticing that for both of them, they're both very layered, and coming to the front, they're very clear and bold, and then there's this kind of layering that goes through where it's almost like a sense of mystery about what's behind the clear images in the front. They both seem to have, I mean, yours in particular, David, has, you know, that sort of blurred sort of, you know, what is that thing behind there? But I think yours also has, you know, the sort of deeper, like there's many, many layers, I assume, underneath those images in the front, yeah.
To me, they both look like they have a sense of motion. They're swimming, it's like they're swimming in the ocean, or especially yours.
The amoeba shapes don't hold,
It's the shapes,
they
like
want to
they're not-
move, they
Yeah.
don't hold still like a square.
Right.
And they're not touching the edges.
Yeah, okay.
I originally said that I thought it was oceanic, which I still see that, but I also see yours, David's floating in the air. also.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
So it doesn't have to be water.
Other thoughts, or shall we?
I like that as you look at both of them, or as I look at both of them, the lighting source becomes a little more mysterious, and I almost feel like maybe there's a reflection in both of them where there's a multiple light, you know, more than one source of light, where you kind of see, and especially yours feels like water to me, like the reflection of the one that's on the wall. Maybe. I like that. I like the way they, as you look at them both, they kind of draw you in and make you think a little more.
Yeah, I actually think you hit on a very good point. These are really an example of, this is a, you know, a reflective, basically, medium.
Yes.
And this is an illuminated medium, so the light is coming that way on this one, and the light is going this way with this one. Because light is,
lighting
that light is my
yeah.
biggest medium.
Yeah.
Light is what makes everything happen for me.
Yeah.
So that's definitely
That's
an
cool.
important difference in the two of them.
We were talking about this earlier because I work on a computer monitor, and so I'm working in a world a lot like this, but the final product is reflected light. So I have to make this mental translation all the time and test it out to see if I got it right. And as I said to Judy, and Judy works in the world of reality because she's actually working with the materials hands-on and can see exactly what that final product is without having to go through that additional step.
So do you have it lit at all while you're working? Or do you have it
Oh, yes.
illuminated while you're
Yeah, it's all
working,
light
or do
box.
you do it
Yeah,
at
all
the end?
all the prints are on a light box while I'm working, because
While you're working.
just of the way it's illuminated, all of the different layers have different transparencies.
Yeah.
So you have to deal with that as you're, designing whatever you're doing. Yeah.
So since we're moving into methods questions, are you guys comfortable moving on to, part 2 of this thing, where we'll sort of tell the stories of how we got here, and then we'll get into methods. Neutralize my silly cell phone. All right, so my question is, Judy, what's the path that got you to this?
Well, very deep.
Profound,
Very
huh?
deep. Can everybody hear me? I don't have a loud voice, so, okay, great. I was a graphic designer for 30 years and very happy, loved going to work. Every day was a joy. And then I went to the cohort of a museum and I saw this little tiny painting. And what it was a little tiny encaustic. And this was 10 years ago when no one was doing encaustic. It was almost unheard of at that point. But it had this luminous surface that I just loved. So I looked it up, found out what it was, went to, I forget where it was in Boston, but there was one person in the whole North area that was giving an encaustic
Tracy
demonstration.
Spadafora?
Do you know who she was?
I took a class with her. Was it? Yeah, I took a class with her in Cambridge. Yeah,
And so
Tracy
she just
Spadafora.
inspired me like crazy. So, I got all the equipment, and because it's toxic, because it's actually pure pigment, what's the name of the other stuff? Anyhow, it's very toxic, and I had to get something that I had to get a big fan of the window, I had to be able to exhaust everything, so I put it all together. And I started working like most people do it on a hard board. Most encaustic is you heat the board, you heat the encaustic material, you heat your brush, and you keep them all hot as you're working. So you have your hands full, you're constantly doing, it's not easy and it's not real comfortable, because if something gets, a little bit, it's like dry acrylic, boom, you have to do it all over again. But I struggled on it, I really loved it. And then I saw someone that mentioned they were going to go take a class in Maine with someone who did it on a hot box. And a hot box, as it turns out, is a big metal surface that's heated, and everything works from there. So you can do, it doesn't work with wood, but it does work with paper, which I had used all my life because I was a graphic designer. So the paper it was so great for me to start with the paper. And I was doing regular prints, a monoprint, like any other, like a silk screen basically. And then I used to hang them up in the window to look at them to see what I thought. And I noticed that the light changed because a lot of encaustic gets almost transparent when it's heated and light goes through it. So it changes totally, and I had to do something about that. So I built this big square plexiglass box that I lit from inside, and I put it in at one time with these encaustic things hanging around the outside so everybody could see the light. And it took me forever to do the box. I said, this is crazy, but what can I do? And then some man came up and said, you're just wasting your time. You can buy illuminated frames online. Oh, no. So anyhow, after that, it was a piece of cake. So I can buy frames of different sizes with different luminosity. And then because I could do that, I had just paper, any kind of paper reacts totally different. The encaustic has, because it's heating the paper will change in certain ways. So the variety is endless. So that's what I've been doing ever since, and it's super fun. And every layer, if it moves from the top to the middle or the bottom, changes the whole entire look of the piece. So you can have 30 prints on paper, and you could have 1,000 different prints. So I found that fascinating.
So is it an LED lighting system behind it?
Yes.
So you can actually change tonality, make it more blue,
These
orange.
are only one. You mean
It's
like
just white?
different tones, like blue or
Yep.
No.
That's this crystal.
Yeah, this is
straight white.
certain, yeah.
So you don't.
These are really for industrial displays.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they're really designed for photographs, actually. Yeah. Right.
So in principle, you could buy a frame that would allow you to change the tone of the light, but these are
Sure.
Yeah.
what they are.
Could you? I don't even know that.
Yeah, but in terms of, lighting and photography, you can actually
Yeah.
change the
different
hue,
color
to bluish,
yeah.
yes, you can adjust it. So,
Oh, really?
yeah, so we can
Oh,
maybe,
God.
I don't know if you want to, I don't think you need to do anything with this, but, it's an option if you wanted to, change the hue a bit in terms of the backlighting.
Yeah. What I do to help galleries out, they're all of mine, you saw downstairs, they're on motion sensors. So they don't light up until someone comes to look at them. And then at night, when everybody's gone, they're off. So that, it kind of saves that.
Come on, sit right in the center where we can look at it. Welcome.
The way it I just explained my technique.
She just told her life, no, you told her life story. You just wanted to technique. Okay, I take it back, okay.
Kind of close, yeah, exactly. So, any questions?
Well, when I looked up encaustic earlier today, it says something about wax and resin.
Resin and pure, the problem with it being very toxic is you're using cadmium, beryllium, all of these toxic materials. So you really, and I found out it's sometimes the hard way, you really have to vent very carefully. And they were, encaustic was what they used for the mummy portraits.
Yeah.
Back 3,000 years ago, and encaustic never fades. This paper might disappear, but the paint is going to remain, which is fascinating also. I love that idea, I think that's super cool. So,
and you're using wax or?
yeah, you heat those three elements together. And
I don't know, is that what makes up wax?
Oh, encaustic you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is wax, resin, and pure pigment.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, the resin and the wax you buy already combined.
Yeah.
And then you can add the pigment that comes in a box.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks.
I've been reading up a lot about the history of frames recently, and I noticed downstairs you've got some pictures that don't have frames on, some that are like the acrylic, kind of borderless, you've got the white frames, you've got a lot of different...
different kinds of frames?
Yeah, frames around your work.
Yeah.
Are you picking the frames as part of the work? Is it?
It's the other. Actually, the other.
Is it the way around?
Yes. I do a work, and then I have to find a frame.
Yeah.
And actually all those frames, not all of them, but most of them are all slightly different.
Right. Exactly. So it seems very intentional. You've got different ideas for different pieces. Yeah.
Practically speaking, some of the original ones I use are no longer being produced. I would say with the original ones because I really like them. But they just don't make them anymore, so I've been using different kinds and, different ways that they go together and stuff like that.
And have you had to be creative? All of these pieces have a wire that goes with them. Have you had creative ways of hiding them or making them more prominent, or how do you deal with the wires?
We had wires down there.
Yep.
Did you notice? I thought they looked pretty good.
They look pretty good. Yeah. So, do you have different ways of dealing with it, though?
Actually in the galleries, they will have, the white, it's like the white metal, I don't even know what you call it, that hides the wire. It's a temporary thing, it just sticks on the wall and the wire goes through a tunnel, like a tunnel.
Yeah.
And and then I've seen in some of the galleries, they let the wire hang. And I've been to museums and they let the wire hang. It's all part of what it is.
Yep.
Yeah. Any more questions?
I have a question for you.
Yes.
And then downstairs we were talking about how you got into the sculptures because you had the packing crates and you felt like I got to do something with this material. Are there other discoveries or accidents or like turning points for you where you had some realization or something came along?
What happened, I don't know if you saw the sculptures down there that have nothing to do with this, it's basically a whole different thing. Because when I had to change my studio I was in Salem, I had to come to Marblehead. And so it took a while to set up that whole procedure. So I had 6 months when I had nothing to do, but packing crates where my paintings came from, and markers. And I started out doing sculptures with just markers and crates. And then I had all this laying around, I had all these old prints that I had rejected. So I chopped those up and put them in my sculpture. And that's how that happened. Yeah. And now, at some point, I might go back and try metal, because they should be metal. Those can't go outside.
All right, is it my turn?
Yes.
Okay. I guess I was a kid who just was constantly building stuff. I was doing art, I was unstoppable, and I worked. I played in every medium you can imagine. I was kind of afraid of painting, actually, but pretty much anything else, I was all over it. And it probably is because I have a grandfather who died when I was pretty young, but he was a photographer, a woodworker, and a painter. And my mom was, I mean, she was a pretty skilled craftsperson, but she was intensely interested in all different kinds of art and craft. So I was just exposed to this incredible variety as a kid, and I just sort of was a doer, and so I always did it. And the thing that was constantly there was photography. I mean, I don't remember a time in my life when I didn't have a camera. So I was always photographing people and places. And that was what my photography was really all about for most of my life. It was mostly related to where did I go and who was I with. I had a career as a software engineer, and so I was technically pretty strong. And I had a second career at the Museum of Science. And so I was involved in the development of exhibits. I was the director of the planetarium, so I was a hemispherical filmmaker. I like really big, immersive canvases. And so working in a museum allowed me to do a lot of really creative and interesting things. So then, let's do a huge jump. My first really good digital camera was the Nikon D70. And it was a single lens reflex camera. It was high quality, and mortals could afford it. So I bought one, and that opened up the world of digital editing. So that gave me all this flexibility. I had worked in darkrooms before, but darkroom work is really hard. You start working digitally, you can do all kinds of stuff quickly. And I had done a lot of work with collage just because I thought it was cool. And then in 2022, late 2022, I encountered an artist who was doing stuff with a lot of blur. It was very abstract. And I thought, well, that's cool. And I started experimenting with it. And in the process of experimenting, I started doing blur and collage. And one day, I created an early version of the large one on that wall. And that one was done with a bunch of photographs of a sunrise that were good photos. Like, technically, they were excellent photos. But they never captured any of the magical feel of this emerging, amazing thing that was happening. And I was really frustrated because, like, the photos just did not do justice to it. And when I created that work, a piece of the magic was back. And I thought, wow, there is really something going on here. And I just sort of felt compelled to, like, I gotta keep working with this. I gotta figure it out. And I want this to be done, ideally large, and I want it out there in the world. And that was kind of the moment at which I would say I stopped being an amateur photographer, whatever that means, to being a professional artist. Because I really felt compelled to get this work out there. And so I often describe this exhibition here as 2 years of work to try to understand what I'd done in that piece, and then to develop some facility with the methods, and then to begin exploring beyond it. And that's kind of the story of how I got to this point. And there's little realizations along the way that are important because they're stolen from my experience with other art forms. There's a lot about stained glass and the way light works in stained glass that's evident in this work. The other thing is This piece, obviously, there's no rectangles in it, but actually, none of the other pieces have rectangles in them either. None of the rectangles are perfect. And if they were, the pieces would have this tension in them. And when you deviate just a little bit from industrial right angles to something that gives a little, it's like nature could have created it. Even like the blue piece in the corner, those rectangles look perfect, right? They're not. They're absolutely not. And the piece looks wrong, until you relax those angles a little bit. And actually, I should do it like an A-B comparison so you could see it. But that was one of the discoveries along the way, and it came from woodworking. Because when I do woodworking, you can cut something on a table saw, and a tabletop cut on a table saw is perfect, but it won't have the same beauty as something that you then work by hand. So it's not quite perfect. And I mean, my pet theory is it's more relatable. And so that's kind of the story of how I got to this body of work. I see a hand.
I was just thinking about the rectangles. Have you done anything that, besides this one, that is not a rectilinear form?
I've experimented with triangles and I didn't like them.
Yeah.
This one, all right, so you've got this one here. This piece looks like distorted rectangles, but when you get close to it, you realize actually there aren't even any straight edges in that one. And that was the first deviation, and it just worked right, and it cut the movement of leaves kind of falling. It created that instability of leaves falling off of the trees. And I thought, ooh, what a reflection in a pond would be. These were all shot in Mount Auburn Cemetery. And there's a pond there. And I thought, oh, yeah, pond, cool. What would happen then? And then I had to take the shapes further and distort them because that's what happens in a pond. And so if you look to the future, I don't know where I'm going with the shapes. But I think I'll probably go in different places.
So how did you land on the neo-rectangular shape for woodlands?
Oh, boy. It felt right. But actually, there is a shape that carries through a lot of my, damn it, I should have brought, there's a piece that I do that has really curved shapes. But in general, sort of long tapered things like, my sister will vouch for me on this one. These long tapered shapes show up all over the place in my work, including earrings that I've made for her, although hers have a little bit of a curve to them. But there's something pleasing to me about a proportion kind of like that. So that's probably how I got there. And it feels, I don't know, it feels natural and right to me, but it doesn't mean I couldn't go in a different direction. Yeah?
Can you just talk a little bit about the mechanics of how you create these? Like, is it done on a computer? Like, how do you layer the different images on? And yeah.
All right, shall we switch to methods? Sure. Okay.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, no. I mean, no, that's a great question. I'm happy to. So let's, oh here, it's in front of you. So let's take this one as an example. This was shot at Westport Point, which is in southeastern Massachusetts near the Rhode Island border. It's a really pretty little seaside town with, fishing boats and like piles of lobster traps and stuff like that. Sort of Cape Cod seashore feel. And it's just a lovely place. And I was just shooting there. just taking pictures. And oftentimes, there's a place that for some reason it touches me. Oh, I like this place. It makes me feel a certain way. I might not even be able to describe how it makes me feel, but I like the feel of the place. And so I'll start shooting, and it's almost like I'm trying to discover what it is about the place that makes it feel that way. And so I come home with a bunch of images. I don't necessarily know. The art hasn't taken form in my head. And usually I start with what's the image that's going to serve as the background. It doesn't always happen that way, but in this case it did. It was like, and there was one piece that felt to me like this one is meant to be the background for it. And then, that's a crop of that one, because the camera doesn't spit out images shaped like that. And then it's like, all right, what are the details that needed to be added into the mix to kind of capture it? And there's a certain amount of trial and error. So I'm working in Photoshop, which is, computer-based photo editor, and I'm working in layers. So imagine I've got a collage with a background layer and then these, funny shaped things that get layered on top. And I can manipulate each layer independently. I can move them around, I can change their shape, I can increase brightness or contrast or something like that. And I work it until it feels right. And that one was interesting because it just wasn't working. It wasn't working. And at one point, I threw all the panels out, and then I brought them back in a completely different way. And one of them just was a troublemaker. Like, it wasn't right. So I threw it out, and I replaced it with another one, and then the thing sort of came together. So does that help?
Yeah, and so with each of these works, are they all from the same place?
Almost. Almost every one of these works is my attempt to conjure up the feelings in a place. The exceptions are that blue one there and that blue one there. And the prompt for that exhibition was the word blue. And so, unlike the process that I just described, the process for those were, I literally sat in a chair and I closed my eyes and I thought about photographs that I'd taken over the years where blue was important. And then I went back into my archives and I found those photos and I found some others, and then I started messing with them. And it led to that piece there, and then I thought, well, what would happen if I turned it sideways? And then that didn't work sideways, but I said, well, would I pick different images? And so I then started the process again, but with a tall, narrow one, and it led to different images. I don't know why, but it did. And so you'll notice I'm not devoted to any particular aspect ratio. Probably the aspect ratio of that first one is the one that I use the most. But they're all different. Yeah.
In anticipation of a possible question that may be posed, particularly where we have a very firm policy in photography, particularly not using AI. This is your own work, so if you could talk a bit about that, because you said to get the blue, you went back into your library and pulled it out as opposed to putting it direct.
Yes, everything.
Yes, so that's important.
Everything is a photograph that I took and is distorted through, or altered through a relatively limited set of techniques. I can mess with the shape of a panel. I actually don't really change the colors. Sometimes I'll saturate them or desaturate them. Like the one in the back over there behind Daniel, the background is, the saturation's brought way, way down to make it closer to a black and white image. And even in the cover panels there's not as much color there. But the leaves, for instance, I did not bring the saturation up on them. They were just screaming at me, those leaves. And so the colors are either pretty true or I've backed off on them. Occasionally, I will like enhance one color, one part of the spectrum. Some in this blue one, for instance, there's this weird blue panel here. It's actually from a jellyfish tank in the American Museum of Natural History's amazingly spectacular exhibit on jellyfish. But the pinks were so subtle, they weren't coming through in the final printed work. And so I brought them out a little bit. And that's actually one of the things that's different about Judy and me. Judy sees what she gets. And for me, I go and print, and then the print doesn't come out right. Because it's a long way from my monitor to the printer. And so there's a process of printing and adjusting to get it to look right once it's finally printed. So the jellyfish look awesome on my monitor, right? But in real life, when they were printed, it's like it didn't have enough punch. It's like, I gotta bring those out.
How are they printed?
Huh?
How are they printed?
They're printed in two ways. They're printed on big inkjet printers. That's the short answer. I have one at home that's a darn good printer, and it'll print up to 17 inches wide. I can print a 17 by 22. And so this one is printed on my home printer. But when they get big enough, I have them professionally printed. There's a place in Belmont called Digital Silver Imaging, and they're great. I love working with them. They're really insightful. And it turns out the subtle color gradients in these are really difficult to print. Jim, I work with 16-bit files because otherwise you don't have enough color gradation. I actually created a single image that has a bunch of stuff that's gone wrong in the time for us. It's like a rogues list of obnoxious things to print. And so when they get a new printer or they try a new kind of ink or something like that, they'll use that as one of the images to test because like it's just so problematic to print. So,
Question, did you ever try printing on metal?
I haven't printed on metal. I think it's interesting.
Especially for some of the ones that are very, very almost metallic.
I've tried metallic papers, and I find them kind of cheesy. Actually, that's the physical nature of the paper is really important. I mean, when you look at these things, you probably, I kind of hope, you wonder, like, what the heck are they? Are they kind of feel silkscreeny, but they don't look like silkscreeny? They kind of look like someone's messing with photographs, but they don't look like photographs. Like, what are they? And part of that is because I use this really creamy matte paper and the quality of the printing is so high. Now, that's a photographic paper. This one has reflection off the edge, right? So that one kind of looks like photographic paper. But this one is a matte paper. It's a matte fine art paper, and it's gorgeous. I think. So
I'm seeing, when I look at this, I'm seeing Matisse cutouts and Calder.
Yeah.
And I'm just curious if there, what artists have influenced the way you look at shape and shape and space.
It's very hard to say because I usually start out just making random prints that feel good at the time. And so I probably, maybe in a day I might do 10, in a week I might do 30, say, and I kind of spread them out. And then I decide, I like this one with this one, I put them together, but it's missing something, and maybe this one, and they try this one, and these two look good, this one doesn't look so good now, so I take that one back. And then every once in a while, I see something, oops, that's my phone.
I didn't hang up on him, I just signed it.
Then I say, no, I want to see what it looks like if I cut a hole out of that and I look at the two behind. And then I say, well, they're kind of interesting, but maybe this third one should move and flip it. So I flip it. And so this goes on for hours. And so at some point I finally have to stop and say, okay, I've done enough. But every piece of paper has sort of a different texture. I mean, it's kind of endless what you can do with very, I only need 30 prints to work on just different variations.
Can I ask, actually, I want to ask a question. So an artist who's sort of a mentor of mine talks about her practice as a conversation between her and the piece that goes on.
So I talk to every one of them.
But like, tell the story of that one. Like, did you do it in a day? Did it?
This is actually, I did, the first one I did, I used black paper. I don't know down here if you notice, some of those look like they're all colored, but many of them are black paper. And black paper gives a huge contrast, more like this. And so I did a couple of black paper cut out so you could see parts of whatever the prints were behind. And this is the first one that I actually took a print and used the print as the first, transparent print as the first layer. But there's a layer behind it which is not transparent. And so that kind of changed this one. So this was kind of one that I don't usually do, but the reason I picked it is because I saw David's there and I said, oh my goodness, this just reminds me so much of the palette, especially of that one and this one. So it's just intuitive. You can spend years with making very few prints, but every print that I make, I have an idea of which other print might go with it. So it's not totally random. And so it's fun. Play. Yes.
I guess I'm curious for each of you, the question, who are your artist heroes, whether they're local artists or if you have any, or if they're, from the canon, or if they're outside of the canon as well.
I love Alice Neal.
Yes.
She has nothing to do with my
She
art,
doesn't have to.
But they're just certain, Frida Kahlo. I mean, there are women artists who just inspire because of their boldness and their ability to do something unique. I always want to do something that nobody else has done before. And as far as I know, no one does this. So.
Can I give you one to look at from the 70s, Ava Hess?
I don't know her.
You need to.
Huh?
Yeah.
What's her name?
Ava Hess, Hesse. Right? Yeah, she was brilliant.
She died young.
She died very young.
Possibly from her materials.
And I like a lot of the sort of outsider art. Anything that people look at and say, oh my gosh, I've never seen anything like that before. And that's a rare treat to see something totally unique. And so, that inspires me when I see something like that.
I mean, I think they're sort of the usual suspects. But I actually have to say, John Singer Sargent is a usual suspect, but I love going up really close, well, actually looking at the piece from a distance and saying, how do you paint that fabric? And then you go up close and there's the wonder of, oh my God, it's just a couple of brush strokes. It's miraculous. There are great photographers, but I think there's more like great photographs that sort of stick with me rather than a particular person. And I will also say, the American Craft Museum in New York, before it became MAD, Museum of Art and Design, and moved to Columbus Circle and became extra with it. Like the fanciful woodworkers who worked into their cabinetry, all these different colors and materials and stuff like that, I think really left a deep impression on me. But I also think, like going to open studios, I see conversations with artists always open up new directions for me. And I think it's those conversations that probably influence me more than anything else. They encourage me to experiment.
Speaking of that, I wondered if you've thought of your layers, playing with the transparency of your layers, in the way that she's doing that. Because you can do that in Photoshop.
Actually.
And it looks like in this
I
piece
do.
behind you, I'm seeing that.
Yeah.
But that's the only one that I mean. from
There's
what I can
there's
see.
actually quite a bit. Not all of them, but some of them have some transparency. The Abbey one there, and on the other side of the fireplace, that one has some transparency in there. This one, Westport Point, actually has a little bit of transparency. Where else?
What about the beach
Very
one?
subtle.
The beach one actually doesn't.
No?
No,
Wow.
it doesn't. It doesn't.
It just lines up then.
Can you explain what you mean? I'm not sure.
Well, the thing is,
Transparency
the transparency means you can see through the layers and see some of the backgrounds. Like, to make Judy's pieces work,
Transparent.
you're seeing layers behind layers because the layer closest to you is somewhat transparent in places.
Yeah, in places.
Translucent.
Some of the layers are not transparent.
Like, you can see the background layer, this line here, even when this is quite dark, you can see some of it through there. And
If you get close, you can see the transparencies all over the place.
So the layers aren't totally opaque. And yeah, I definitely experiment. Like that first one, everything's opaque. There's nothing bleeding through from the background through those panels. But in quite a few of the others, not the leaves, but this one and that one in front of the fireplace.
So it's very subtle transparency.
It's pretty subtle,
Like
yeah. Yeah. I've also tried working with edges that aren't clean and like blurring the edges. Yeah, don't like it.
Do you digitize your film photos, or do you just work with digital photos?
I work with digital photos. It's just so quick.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I don't know what it would be like to work with
That was
digitizing.
my follow-up question. Do you scan
it's a
negatives
really
or
interesting
prints?
question because there was a brief period of time when Kodak took my negatives and they would give me high-resolution digitals. I should go back to some of those images and see if there's anything about the digital versions that I like, and I haven't done that.
I bought a film scanner years ago and scanned slides with it, and it's amazing what you can do with those, with a slide. You know, the colors are
Oh, that's a really
incredible.
cool idea. Yeah, Phil.
Just a question, because I've seen your work in different rooms, and I've really enjoyed seeing them in the same room, because I think it's a very interesting comparison, especially the one down there that you had with this one, how similar they can be. So the question is around, photography. The pain of photography is that, unlike most other mediums, you start with the mess of the world and you need to simplify it. You need to get rid of distractions. Distractions kill a photograph. And this is kind of a very good end member of getting rid of distractions by blurring things out. Whereas most of the mediums, including like paint, pigment, music, you start with nothing, you start with silence, and you build up towards something. So photography is subtractive, most of the arts are additive, and here you kind of found something, you're kind of converging. So the question is, do you see why your work starts to overlap? Is there a reason behind it?
We come to it so differently.
Exactly.
Phil's sort of asking a question about how your work is there.
I kind of believe that your work there's more concept to it. And I don't have a concept, basically. I have a little path I follow. And so when I start out, it's just, I like red today, you know? I mean, and then the next day, I like green. And so the third day, I put them together in different ways. So there's no real plan. But
So when you mentioned this was like a carnival, was that after or before?
After.
After, okay.
When I was done,
Yeah.
I looked at it and said, I think that's like a carnival.
And that is really different from,
Yes.
except from, well, even the blue ones, but the others, there's something that I felt that I'm chasing in the work. Like for me, this one here and that one there,
That's the answer. You're chasing, I'm following.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do that.
What are you chasing?
I am returning to a place that had rich memories, and I'm seeing it from a distance, and I'm wondering, what's it going to be like? Is it going to be like what it was before? And the panels are kind of my memories, and the background is the view towards this place. There's like the sense of curiosity and nostalgia. And I only came to understand that when I worked on the pieces and it came out. And like that brown one there in the Abbey, that one, I mean, the way light moves in the place is amazing, but it's really about the way sound moves in that place. That's really about sound. And it was acoustically a totally magical place. So yeah.
Where are those?
They're in Guatemala. They're on crossing a lake in a water taxi. Both of them are different days, going to the same place in a water taxi. It's this little teeny town called Flores, which is kind of about as far north as you can get and have comfy touristy accommodations before you get into the wilds of the rainforest and can go to places like Tikal and those ruins. It's just adorable little town. But it's both dirty and beautiful and colorful.
Any other comments about anything?
Do you listen to music when you work?
Yes.
What do you listen to?
Right now, I'm really involved in Leonard Cohen.
Oh, cool.
Oh,
yeah.
Dave, how about you? Do you listen to music?
You know, sometimes I would say I probably listen to piano jazz. But I have a problem with music, which is
You listen to
I often really listen to it and it takes me away from from what I'm doing.
I think sometimes too, it even inspires what you do, depending on what you're listening to.
Yep.
You know, is it quiet? Is it robust? Or yeah.
So what are the questions we should have asked each other?
Why do you struggle so to do all these things? You know, sometimes you're ripping up paper, and you're really annoyed, and it doesn't look right, and the paint is not going on right, and that stuff.
Yeah, why do you stick with it?
You walk out of the studio saying that, it's just so annoying. But the next day, I know why. Going right back, and you're going to do this and that, it's going to be better.
Well, that's another thing. Sometimes I'm stuck.
Yeah.
And then it might be a month later that somebody says something that triggers a thought, and I think, you know, maybe that would get me unstuck here. And that really does happen. Also, Jean and I are in a group of photographers, and Jim too, and we get together, and at the beginning, you know, the group would kind of look at me and say, what the hell are you doing, man? And then they became more comfortable, and then they started asking questions that helped me think differently or get unstuck. Those conversations are pretty fun, George. You know people that shake you up?
The encaustic group. There's a group, and it's, I guess right now it's the North Shore Acoustic Group, and I don't know if anybody knows Steve Lush and Nella Lush. They have a gallery in Boston and everything, and basically Nella's sort of the organizer. And
Experimental group.
say that again?
An experimental group.
Experimental group, yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Not caustic.
Yeah, that's right. That's
Yeah,
right.
yeah. And I'm in that group
experimental Are you a member of that?
Yeah.
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 I mean, that, everybody there is unbelievably amazing. And it's all about people trying to experiment, breaking all the rules, not breaking them, but going beyond them almost, and everybody does something totally unique. We have these little projects where, she'll give us a theme or something. There's 30 of us, there's 30 totally different ways of dealing with it. It's just amazing, it's just fantastic, yeah.
Do you have to wear a mask or anything? I mean, how do you deal
Oh,
with it?
no, I have a big vent.
It's all
right
vented
down
and,
the thing.
yeah.
Exactly, yeah.
Um,
And if you don't, you get dizzy.
Pardon me?
If you don't, you get dizzy. If you
Yeah,
forget
well,
to put the vent on.
then you die. Yeah, that sounds bad.
This is really fun, yeah.
Yeah, you, like myself, I suspect, have many moments where one begins to think, is this all there is?
Say that again?
At a point as a photographer or painter, you get to a point in your work, you're saying, is this all there is?
Oh, is it over?
And then, is
It
there a
needs to be.
transition that I should go to? And how do I find that? So have David and have you thought of any different directions in terms of your work, your composition, or what do you want to do next?
Oh, I have a credo, and it is design something simple, strong, beautiful, but not pretty. That's what I live by.
Oh, that's
And that's what I try to achieve. I don't always do it, but yeah, that's it. Yeah.
And do you have thoughts on directions you want to experiment with?
Well, that's the criteria for what I see as my better finished pieces when I feel I've kind of gotten there. And that's a big challenge. So, I mean, I'm still doing it. I'm still challenging myself to get to that point. And it's just very rewarding because you make steps and you feel you've really done some progressing. And then the next day you do something that you like even more. And that keeps you going. I don't know where the end is yet.
Yeah, no, I don't know where the end is either. And I guess, Jim, there's a whole, first of all, I do see, it's limitless. So I don't feel like I've hit a wall. Well, or if I feel like I've hit a wall, I feel like I just got to figure out how to bust through it. But one of the things that I'm curious about is, I've actually wondered, how would I apply my method to doing a portrait of a person? Right, I don't have a clue how to do that, but maybe someday I will. And probably there will be some pretty crummy stuff that I do, and then it'll come together. A cat, your cat in particular. Right. So how to make money as an artist? Do commissions on other people's pets. So that's one thing. But the other, Jim, is moving away from strict planar art. I mean, you can see there's a lot of stuff. Many of the frames here I've built. So the 4 seasonal pieces on the end, you'll notice those pieces aren't even flat. And those are box frames that I built. The one on the driftwood, really was a creative experiment. The one in the corner, that diptych, I built that frame, and the edges of the, platforms or the things that the prints are on, they're painted. And so I want to experiment with more sculptural settings for this work. And that's part of what I love about Judy's sculptures downstairs, is they've got all these facets, and depending upon your angle, those facets speak to you and to each other differently. And so moving into 3 dimensions, I kind of want to do a forest of columns that are painted on two sides and printed on
It's
two
very refreshing,
sides.
very refreshing to make your mind turn from 2 dimensions to 3 dimensions,
Mhm.
even if you don't stay there. I forget who asked the question about where are you going. I always think of like, oh, I don't know, Bruce Springsteen. Every new song that you do, you feel is the best I can do now, but what can I do next? It's gotta be a little better. You know, so that keeps you going. Great, I'm gonna try it a little bit harder, you know?
Judy, when you mentioned that there's 4 or 5 things that you are trying to accomplish this proposal,
Yeah.
when you said pretty, it was like, oh, what does she mean? And is that the hardest one?
That's just I don't want anything that people are gonna right away like too much. I mean, I don't like
No, I know what you mean, but, I mean, I think I know what you mean, that's why I'm like,
I don't want everybody to
conventional.
like it necessarily.
Is there a feminine
certain
thing that you're resisting also? Like traditionally feminine, pretty, yes, yeah.
I don't wanna do that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been done, first of all, I think it's been done extremely well by people I know and people, you know, who've come before. But for me, I don't want that. So that's, you know, that's why I remind myself, because it's sometimes you can go off into that area. You know?
But it seems like that would be the hardest one to shake.
Yeah, possibly, yeah. No, I remind myself as I'm working. Yeah.
But it's nice to hear you say beauty is acceptable,
Well,
because
I
I feel so
the idea-
superficial when I think, oh gosh, that's really beautiful. Oh wait, maybe I should say it's powerful, profound, it's this, it's that.
I mean,
It's so beautiful.
beauty can be pretty, beauty can be brutal.
Yes, yeah.
There's a lot of different beauties, and so I'm looking for another beauty
Right.
from that. Yeah.
But something brutal can't really be pretty.
Or to
Yeah. Unless you're, well, I won't get political.
like I look at graffiti, you know, and some of it's awful. It's not pretty, but some of it's strikingly beautiful.
Yeah.
You know.
So, this might be going backwards in the order of like, what we were supposed to be talking about at the point.
We're talking about whatever we're talking about.
Okay, so, I don't know if this was in your head, but when I saw this, and then you said the carnival, which I now understand came after what I was thinking, but those kind of like for spotlit places that I mentioned before, I don't know if that's in your mind, like the bright white, is that?
Yeah,
because
I can hear what you said.
like it feels as though the areas, I'm just wondering in your mind, the areas that to me look spotlit in there, where there's the bright white, there's no detail. So it's like,
there is a slight texture.
oh, is there?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes. And that's the paper, there's a piece of white paper. Very often I cover the whole, I don't have cutouts. Not all of my prints down to have cutouts. So when I have a cutout, because I want something to be there. So it's a very slight texture, but almost a basket weave kind of texture.
But you're not supposed to touch. You can't, you're not supposed to touch.
Not supposed to touch.
I mean, you can touch it, but
Oh.
we're not supposed to paw in your pieces.
Have we come to where we were meant to come to?
Well, I'm curious, just out of inspiration, what are you watching, listening to, or reading right now? Whether it's professional or personal, or what's inspiring you? Like, what are you interested in?
Oh. That's big. You know, I tend to read biographies of people that I'm interested in or think I'm interested in. And right now I'm reading this book called, Picasso versus, my God, I can't think of his name. It's a book about, who's the guy that did the paper cutouts?
Matisse.
Thank you. Matisse versus Picasso, and how interesting they were contemporaries, but Matisse was older. Picasso was the sort of underdog, and then all of a sudden Matisse became the overdog, and it's about how they hated each other. It's really interesting book. And all of it, it's almost like David and I. It's a picture of the two of them working at the same time, influencing each other. I mean, we haven't done that yet, but we are now.
Yes, we
It's
are.
already. So, yeah, and so that happens to be what I'm reading.
I'm reading a trashy detective novel. I've actually never read anything by Ernest Hemingway, so I have a couple on reserve. I'm waiting to get them from the library.
You should read Old Man in the Sea.
Yeah.
Actually, you know what? I take it back. I have read Old Man in the Sea. Yes. And I have on my night table a book on how to navigate when you don't have any equipment. Like survival navigation for, the rugged seafarer. But I read a lot of different kinds of things. I like reading science history. And I recently read, I think it was called The Weight of Ink, which was a really, actually there was that novel, and there was another one related to about the Sarajevo Haggadah. Do you know what book I'm talking about?
Yes, People of the Book.
Yes, People of the Book, written by.
Good question.
Really interesting. This author, People of the Book, she writes about true things, where in this case it's this illuminated Haggadah. Haggadahs are the book that you read from at Passover. They're not normally illuminated manuscripts like Christian religious works, but this one is. And so she imagines how this thing came about and the course of events that led to its discovery. And so it's deeply grounded in history, but it's all her imagination, too. She's really famous. And this is what happens when you have early Alzheimer's. Yes, Geraldine Brooks. Yeah. So that's like the latest substance that I've read.
I second that. That was a great book. Really, really interesting.
I don't watch anything profound on TV. I'm watching. Actually, yeah.
Channel 2 had Art of the 21st Century in two different sections this last week.
Okay. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it was kind of interesting. Yeah.
Were there other dimensions to your question?
If you're listening to, but you talked about music already, if podcasts.
Yeah, podcasts don't hold my attention. They should. I love Radio Lab, but I don't stick with it.
Podcast.
We did a cool Radio Lab thing in the planetarium. That was so insanely fun. We had Jad there, and we had the stars on it. He was talking about the cosmos, and it was really insanely cool. Those guys are wild. All right, have we gotten to where we were meant to get?
Yeah.
Thank you for a great audience. Aren't they terrific?
Great questions.
Yeah, really, thank you. You really made our afternoon. It was a total treat.